Storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to breathe life into your brand and often called one of the most important component of content marketing. In order for consumers to form a personal connection with your brand, company stories must be authentic, creative, and inspirational. And that's what we are going to talk about in today's episode. Hey people, how's it going? Welcome back to yet another interesting episode on the Marketing Manifest podcast. Today we have Kaushik Kannan, who is also known as the People's Man. He works as a lead development representative at Chargebee and is the founder of an energetic community called the Storytellers Tribe. He's a marketer, storyteller, a YouTuber, and a public speaker who's passionate about power of people, communities, sales, and marketing. Without further ado, let's welcome Kaushik to the Marketing Manifest podcast. Hey Kaushik, how's it going?
Hello, Emil. Things are amazing as always. Thank you so much for having me here. I love what you're doing with the Marketing Manifest, as I was telling you as well.
Yeah.
So, just the name in itself is so powerful. Marketing being manifested, right? There in itself, you're conveying such a deep story to all of our people.
Exactly.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for coming onto the show as well. So let's start with the question. So my first question is, there is a saying that storytelling is an art. It's not a process, method, or a technique. So is there any science behind it?
Art. Definitely art. So one thing though, Emil, but I would be betraying myself if I say it's only an art. It's like two sides of a coin, right? There's always heads and tails. They always say your two eyes. So the thing is, it is definitely an art. So every time you start a story, you hear people say, "I'm going to paint a picture for you. I'm going to draw an analogy." That's what people say. They use these terms which are artistic in nature because that is what a story is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is method to the madness. It is proven that hey, we're all humans. And there's so much noise and distraction. Yeah. If we started by saying, Emil, you've done 732 episodes with so many people would have hopped off. They would have bounced off right away. But then we started with the story of Marketing Manifest, which was beautiful, and that is why people are still here with us.
Yes.
There you go. You already have the best example of a story retention right there.
Awesome. I really like the way how you conveyed that particular aspect. So from oral storytelling in prehistoric times to heliographic storytellings in the ancient Egypt to our modern days movies, stories have been, they have found a real special place in our lives, right? But why do you think storytelling is important in marketing? How does it impact?
Right. So I like to pull one of my favorite marketers of our era, Seth Godin here. So he says this one thing, which was probably one of the which has had such a big impact on me and a lot of people I know. He asks this one question: what is stopping people from sorting by price before they buy your product?
Okay.
Damn. So what is that one thing? See, you can always say, I have 10 features better than my competitions. I have a lesser price than my competition. You can say all that. But it's always the story you weave into your product that helps you stand apart.
That's right.
Now, stories are what we resonate with, Emil.
Yeah.
So I've heard some of your other episodes as well. I love them, and it's everybody sharing their story at the end of the day.
Exactly, that's right.
We're all storytellers, as you mentioned, right from prehistoric time. Even when there was no language, we've all been storytellers, and that's who humans are. We have this innate ability to say that, hey, it's as simple as you go gossip with your buddy there. And that is the story you're telling them.
Exactly.
It's that simple. Even without realizing, we're all storytellers. Each and every one of us listening to us right now, each and every one of you out there is a storyteller. Maybe you don't know it yet, but you're already sharing stories that are helping people because that's what people resonate with.
Maybe it's still there in their inner mind, and they might have not found that thing yet. Maybe after listening to this podcast, they would definitely find it out and bring out their storytelling power which they have.
Definitely. Let's help people bring the storyteller in them. Also, Emil, before that, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What's your favorite movie, Emil?
My favorite movie. There are a couple of in various different Languages.
genres.
Yeah. So one movie I could say is I really don't. Um, okay, I watched this movie called as Drishyam, which is a Malayalam movie. Which they had. I mean, it was a kind of a criminal or kind of. I mean, it was a action and criminal mixed of family entertainment movie, which had a really good story, and that movie was particularly, retaken in Telugu and Hindi as well. Why was this question came out? I just want to know the reason behind it.
Sure. You just had to go and pick a movie I haven't watched, didn't you? I was hoping you'd say an English movie, but anyway. Okay. So I'm just gonna take a wild bet and say, just before you said it was a criminal, it was thriller, right? And I'm sure that your heart would have raced just before the hero, the protagonist, discovered the truth, or maybe someone had a gun point to him, and you were like, "Oh no, something's gonna happen." So you're immersed. You grab people's attention. People listen to you. They listen to your story. And that's why you should go tell stories.
Awesome. So what are the key elements of a story? Like there are a lot of stories when you, let it be any kind of movie or maybe a novel or anything it may be, but each and every story has a few different elements in it, right? Can you just list down a few of them for the audience?
Sure. So one thing is, I don't want all of us to overcomplicate this. Storytelling is incredibly simple. It's not easy. It's simple. There's a difference. Okay. It's just that, honestly, being a passionate storyteller, I believe that storytelling, people just have this misconception that is something extremely difficult. You need to be certified, or you need to be trained to do this. But that's not the case. As I told you before, as Emil told all of us, we've always been storytellers, you and I, each and every one of us.
Yeah.
So for a good story, all you have to do is share an experience. What people care about. I'm going to take the flavor of marketing here, especially since that's what we're talking about.
Sure.
So every single time, what people care about is who they become or what they get. It's always what's in it for me. So you're selling, or you're marketing to that person, what do they get is ultimately what people care about. Otherwise, it could be a good cause or anything. Even if it's a cause, they get the satisfaction feeling of doing something, contributing to a cause. It's always, what do I get? So your story should be something which says, from your feeling here, I will guide you to being this person. So that is what a good story is. Always. There are a couple of things here. So I said Seth Godin in between, but there might always be people who do not know Seth Godin. So you have to be empathetic enough to understand that not everybody knows what you know. Extremely important in a story. Very, very, very important. So you start somewhere, you set some context. You tell them, okay, so it was June 2019. It was a stormy day. And now people have started to visualize the stormy day. You set some context. You tell them what the protagonist is feeling. You tell them what he wants to do and how he's going to achieve it. Pretty simple.
Okay.
So you start somewhere, you take them on this journey, and who does that person become? How does that story relate to you? That's the most important part. All right, you have a story, all that's cool, man, but what's in it for me, right?
Exactly. What is the end goal?
Exactly. What does that story have for me? What do I learn from that story? What do I get from that story? Is what you should think about when you share a story. What does that person get out of it? Is something which
so what exactly you meant is, like, even if you're doing a storytelling part, there should be a particular goal in which your story should be out, right? Without a goal, you cannot there's no point in making a story out of it, right? Eventually, once you tell a story, there should be a moral or maybe an end point wherein the one who is listening to that story should benefit out of it. I mean, same exactly how this podcast is running out. Awesome.
Exactly. Awesome. So as you mentioned, otherwise it's a bedtime story. People are just gonna go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. It should be informative as well. Yeah. Awesome. So how do you create this proper authentic storyline? Like, there are a lot of stories out, but still every brand should have its own unique story, right? So what is the process behind it?
True. So this is an extremely interesting question you brought up, Anil. There's this person who actually asked me this. So this is during one of my talks.
Okay.
And post that talk, he walks up to me and he asks me, Kaushik, everybody has already taken a concept. Be it Simon Sinek, who talks about leadership and he's the best there. There's Vishen Lakiani who talks about spiritual realization.
Okay.
There are so many people, so many leaders in this world who talk about each thing. And pretty much every topic is taken.
Yeah.
So he was like, even I want to share my story. I want to help people. I want to voice out. What do I do, Kaushik? He was like, I'm lost. So that's when you realize that it's extremely simple again. What is your flavor? What is your unique spin to it? ML, we all know that there are tons of podcasts out there.
Yeah.
What is the reason for people to listen to Marketing Manifest? It's the beautiful story of Woven in which it's a manifestation of marketing in
Exactly.
itself,
That's
so
right.
powerful.
That is the reason
Exactly.
I chose the word Marketing Manifest. Of course, there were a lot of podcasts and maybe different kinds of YouTube channels as well with the same name, but with a different way. But I wanted to bring it more unique. I mean, it should be very unique to me, and it should definitely portray my personality and what exactly the podcast is all about. So yeah, that is the reason I chose this name. And I think it's really, I mean, people are able to get that feel of whenever they listen, I mean, whenever they hear the name, the Marketing Manifest, people are literally able to understand that feel and the information, whatever they are getting out from this podcast.
Exactly. See, that was beautiful right there.
Exactly.
So that is what it is, ML. And going back to your question, to give a little more solid answer as such, what people can take away. So I like to use something called this wandering hero concept.
Okay.
So in which your story should always have three elements. So why I brought that up before is it could be a story, a concept which is always shared, but how do you spin your unique story? So the three elements are your hero, the navigator, and the solution.
Okay.
As much as I love to call myself the hero, your customer is always the hero.
That's awesome.
So imagine that the customer is lost. He's in this forest. He wants to find a way out. Now your customer, being the hero, is trying to navigate his way out. That is where you step in, the marketer. You are the navigator, the pathfinder. You show the way.
That's true.
You tell the hero, hey boss, listen, this is how you reach your solution, which is your product ultimately. You make them realize that is what they're going to feel. So remember how I told you a story should tell people what they get out of it?
Exactly, yeah.
So taking this forest, that person is stuck in a forest. You're gonna get a chopper to get that person out of the forest. So there's the hero, there's you, the marketer, getting the chopper, which is the way to the solution. And now the solution is that person being free. So the solution is not the chopper. The chopper is your product, but the solution is the hero.
Is you. I mean, is
us and escaping the forest. That is what they're getting.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So that's the twist there. So that's one thing which a lot of people miss out. So the solution is the product.
Okay.
But that's not what the hero cares about. The hero stuck in the forest. The hero wants to leave the forest. That's what they want. So you tell them what they get and not just the product. You don't tell them you pay me $10, you get to do this month on month. That's not what you do. You tell them this is how your life is going to get better because of this.
Awesome. I was literally able to imagine what exactly you're trying to tell the hero, the chopper, and the forest, and the way how he escapes, and what exactly he eventually got his solution, and he found his way out, and he escaped. Right. That's the end thing. What it has to happen. Awesome.
There you go.
Definitely. Definitely. Story is one of the most powerful mediums to convey your messages, as you did, because it is remembered much longer than facts and figures. Obviously, I'm going to remember this story, what you said right now, even after the podcast is over. And people are more likely to be persuaded as well. Listening to all these stories, people are definitely going to be persuaded. Definitely they're going to persuade. So what is that one piece of advice you want to give the audience on storytelling?
Don't overthink it. So I cannot emphasize enough that you are already a storyteller. Do not overthink it and do not overcomplicate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely simple. So the wandering hero concept, the wandering hero framework is one of the simplest ways to get started.
Okay.
Remember, there's the hero, you're the navigator, and then there's the solution, the way how they want to feel. I want you to know that no story is a story not worth sharing. This is what stops a lot of people from sharing stories. I personally know, because a lot of people have asked me this.
Mm-hmm.
They come and ask me, Kaushik, why would I even share this? Why would anybody care or want to hear this? And that makes me really sad, because you have to know that everybody has a story to tell. You have a story to tell, and there are thousands and thousands of people who are waiting to listen to that. See,
that's right.
There is always someone who's 10 steps behind you.
Mm-hmm.
See, one more thing is, there's always someone who's 10 steps ahead of you.
Exactly.
Never let it get your head. But there is always someone who's 10 steps behind you, and your story can help them with your life. That is why you need to share your story. That is why you need to voice out. No matter what, right after listening to this, ML, as you asked, I want all of our people to go share their story. It could be something as simple as, this is how I managed to change from how I used to work in an office to how I'm working now. A lot of people could have spoken about this,
mm-hmm.
but there could be someone who's facing exactly the problem you're facing. Now, Emil, I would love to see a blog post from you down the line saying, this is how I started my podcast. These are the things I use for my podcast. This is how I edit my videos. I would love to read that.
Actually, to be very honest, I'm actually started writing blogs. See, before I started this podcast, I'm not a good writer. To be very honest, I'm not a good content writer. But once I started this podcast, listening to people's story, now I'm able to write blogs like a story. It's not going to be like a pakka, that typical blog post. It's going to be like people who are going to read that. It's definitely, it'll be like reading a story for them. And it's definitely gonna stay in their minds forever. That's how I'm writing my blog post. And thank you so much for this insight. I'm definitely gonna do this after maybe a few days down the line. Maybe you could see a blog post of how I started my podcast.
Beautiful. Love the plug there. Also, on that note, talking about writing, there's this article by Paul Graham which says, write like you talk. I mean, we can have a whole different conversation about writing, and we'll do that. We'll definitely do that
later.
But for now, go share your story. Do not think that it's too simple or who's gonna care. Thousands of people are waiting for your story. Go share that with the world. That's awesome. What I like to say.
Awesome, man. This was such a beautiful episode I've done till now. I mean, the way you portrayed each and everything was really beautiful. And yes, brand storytelling is the future of marketing. When data and stories are used together, they are able to move your audience both intellectually and emotionally. Story is one of the most powerful mediums to convey your messages because, yes, as I said, people do remember it much longer than facts and figures. The best stories in the world are not does not have to be necessarily your own. User-generated stories are often able to inspire people and much more than brand stories. Thank you so much, Kaushik, for being on the show. It was really a beautiful episode in the Marketing Manifest podcast. And I'm sure the audience who are listening to this podcast would have understood the power of storytelling. And this is going to definitely help them power up their marketing campaigns as well. With that being said, I thank each one of you listening to this podcast and who has listened to this podcast till here. And I hope you have got a really good insight from Kaushik on storytelling. I will be coming back with another interesting episode next week. And until then, stay safe and stay tuned. This is Emil Eji signing off. Peace out.